We're back in The Swiss Reformation by Bruce Gordon, and today we are in Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is titled The Spread of the Reformation. This is about how the Reformation took over Switzerland, sort of. The chapter begins describing the Swiss Reformation, not spreading like wildflower, but more like a series of kitchen fires, each blaze breaking out in different towns or valleys. Some of those fires ignited by theological passion, others by political friction, some fueled by just sheer civic chaos. In this chapter, Bruce Gordon maps out the unpredictable expansion of a movement born in Zurich and how it radiated outward, but always in tension and always in fragments. Gordon writes on page 86, the Swiss Reformation was not a coherent or unified movement. So we'll have Gordon lead us as we follow the Reformation's path through the mountains and cities of eastern Switzerland to strongholds like Berne and Basel. We'll meet reformers, civic councils, and whole communities caught between medieval religion and modern dissent. And by the end, we'll see how their confessional shift nearly tore the Confederation apart. Part 1, the train of reform, Swiss style. From page 86, quote, faced with a vast panoply of names, events, and places, it is tempting to throw up one's hands, but that will not do. The Swiss Reformation was civic, not royal. There was no monarchs, no archbishops, just councils and communities that were deciding their own fate. From the humanist influence of Erasmus to the preaching of Zwingli to the printers in Basel, the Reformation in Switzerland took on a unique life in each location. It was not a centralized movement. It was mostly local, very practical, but also very fragmented and, of course, deeply political. Part 2, the first advances in the Eastern Confederation, St. Gall. In St. Gall, reformers took on a powerful abbey that had long controlled the city's political and spiritual life. And leading the charge was Joachim Vadianus, also known as Vadianus, and Johannes Kessler. They both aligned with guilds and the poor, promoted evangelical preaching, and pushed iconoclasm through the streets. And by 1525, Vadianus, or Joachim Vadianus, was elected mayor, signaling a civic reformation in full swing. But Catholic resistance never disappeared, and St. Gall remained a city on the edge. Appenzell, from page 93, quote, each community was allowed to choose whether it would adopt the evangelical faith or remain Catholic, unquote. In Appenzell, democracy won out. Each parish voted on whether to remain Catholic or become Protestant. Zurich and St. Gall helped shape the region's reform, but Appenzell charted its own path. This created one of the earliest forms of confessional coexistence, which, of course, was fragile, but remarkably stable for its time. Thurgau. Thurgau was governed by multiple cantons, creating a political powder keg. In 1524 and 1525, uprisings broke out, demanding reform. Zurich intervened. They sent preachers, organized 2 major synods to impose its version of Protestantism. The Landsgemeinde, or local assembly, was the legal means for communities to decide their religious future, but imposition and unrest brewed under the surface. Graubünden. In Graubünden, also known as Grisons, there was no bishop, no strong central church, so reform came through law. The Elands Articles of 1524 and 1526 stripped away clerical power and gave lay people the right to choose pastors. Here, leaders like Johannes Commander and Jakob Salzmann pioneered a participatory reformation. But unity was elusive. Reform split valley from valley and town from town. Glarus. Zwingli had once preached here. His student Valentin Tschudi continued his work. But the region was deeply divided. In 1528 and again in 1529, the Landsgemeinde met to vote. No side could claim a majority. So finally in 1532, they settled it. Each community could decide its own faith. Part 3, the principal urban confederates. Berne, or Berne. Berne was wealthy, cautious, and politically central. It didn't rush into Reformation, but reformers like Berchtold Haller, Niklaus Manuel, and Sebastian Mayer stirred the pot. The city was rocked by Fastnacht, which were plays mocking the Mass, public debates, and pressure from below. In 1528, Berne hosted a major disputation. The Reformation triumphed. A conservative powerhouse had become a Protestant one. Basel. Basel's story is more scholarly than dramatic. Johannes Oecolampadius led the reform with quiet wisdom, rooted in Erasmus's humanism. Basel avoided conflict until 1529. That year, images were smashed, the Mass was ended, the council embraced evangelical doctrine. Quote, the evangelical victory was rapid, but it was intellectual as much as political. Unquote. That's from page 111. But Oecolampadius died just 2 years later. Basel's new faith survived, but its shepherd was gone. Schaffhausen. Schaffhausen came late to the table. Reformers like Sebastian Hofmeister and Sebastian Mayer tried to push change. In 1529, the council officially adopted the Reformation, but the city leaned heavily on Zurich's example. Schaffhausen had no Zwingli, no drama. Its Reformation was quiet and dependent. Part 4. International Hopes, Internal Fractures. Zwingli saw more than scattered reforms. He saw a Christian alliance, a confessional league. He worked to unite Zurich, Basel, Berne, and Schaffhausen under one evangelical vision. The Christliches Burgrecht was a defensive pact. Christliches Burgrecht. But internal disagreements, especially over the Lord's Supper, divided the reformers. Quote, the attempts to unify the Reformation would shape Swiss politics and religion for centuries, page 115. Unity failed, and war loomed. So by the end of chapter 3, the Swiss Reformation has spread, but it was not united. Some cantons embraced change, others resisted. Everywhere, divisions deepened. What began as preaching and printing presses was now setting the stage for pikes, armor, and bloodshed. Zurich and its evangelical allies stood increasingly at odds with the Catholic cantons. Alliances hardened, trust dissolved, and the dream of a unified Protestant front was collapsing faster than a poorly stacked pile of indulgences. Now, Kappel is on the horizon. In chapter 4, Zwingli, the pastor, the polemicist, the theologian, marches to war in full armor, literally. What follows is not a victory parade, it's a disaster. Betrayals, blood, and a very Protestant kind of martyrdom. So prepare yourself, because next chapter is where the Reformation puts down the pulpit and picks up the halberd. We'll see you next time.